Hello, everyone. Welcome. On behalf of the Institute of Outdoor Recreation and Tourism, or IORT for short, at Utah State University, we welcome you to the 8th of 9 sessions of the Red Emerald Resilience Training Program. I am Jordan Catcher, Initiatives Facilitator with the Wallace Stegner Center Environmental Dispute Resolution Program at the University of Utah, and I am an IORT partner and will be facilitating today's session. So to start us off, we want to highlight that this training series is supported by the Utah Office of Tourism's Destination Development and Partner Relations team. Also, I'd like to give you all a little background into the Red Emerald Resilience Training Series. As many of you know, probably all too well, the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in serious economic setbacks and challenges for the tourism industry and many destination communities throughout Utah and across the nation. Many businesses and tourism organizations are still recovering and/or learning how to adapt to this post-pandemic world. To address this need, the Utah Office of Tourism and IORT came together to build this webinar training series with the purpose of helping Utah's tourism industry and local businesses recover from the COVID-19 and become more resilient to future shocks. We consulted with industry leaders and business owners throughout the state through interviews and a survey, and we used what we heard via that consultation to inform the creation of this series. The topics and design of the training sessions reflect what we heard was most important. Our ultimate hope in conducting this training series is that through sharing best practices, strategies, lessons learned, and success stories, we can help Utah's tourism industry and businesses thrive in an ever-changing world. For the full training program, I would love for you to visit our website, which I'm going to paste right into the chat. And this training series is organized basically into 3 segments. So the first segment focused on communication for resilience. The second segment focused on resources for resilience. And the third is on planning for resilience. Today's session is the second in our series on planning for resilience, and we'll focus on creating pathways for high school and college students to work in the tourism industry. As with all of our sessions, this session is particularly targeted toward people working in and with the tourism industry. However, we do expect today's content will be relevant for anyone that's interested in this topic. Today, we are joined by 3 special guests who will be discussing this topic and sharing their wisdom with all of us. We have AJ Templeton, Assistant Professor of Hotel, Resort, and Hospitality Management with Southern Utah University, as well as Cicily Kind, Program Director for Educational Programs with Utah Tourism Industry Association, and Dan Howard, Vice President of Communications with the Park City Chamber of Commerce. Each of our speakers brings a unique perspective and extensive experience working with the tourism industry. Our speakers will join us in just a moment. For now, though, I just want to say thank you to all of our speakers for joining us today to share your wisdom. For the audience, a few important things to note. This session is being recorded, so we will share the session recording along with the webinar summary via our website after the event. And in a moment, we're going to jump into the interactive part of the presentation. Throughout the session, those of you that are on the live webinar should expect to engage with us via the chat. So this is how it's going to work. We want to hear how things are going for you and what you're thinking about. So we'll be presenting some questions for you to respond to throughout the presentation. We will post those prompts for the audience using the chat function. So please respond to any prompts you see in the chat next to you. If you have specific questions for the panelists during the presentation, please post your question using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll address those questions if and as we have the time. So to recap, we're going to use the Q&A function to submit all of your questions for the panelists, and we'll use the chat function in responding to any of our questions and our prompts. And also, just as a reminder, when you are responding to those prompts in the chat, just make sure that your chat is set up to go to everyone or just all presenters and participants. That way everyone can see what you're submitting. Okay, so to start us off, let's give the chat engagement a try and get some input from the audience first. So for our audiences, just a reminder, so you're going to type your response into the chat. Remember to make sure that it's going to everyone before you hit enter. And we hope you'll share your thoughts. So, when we see each other's comments in the chat, it really makes it more fun for all of us to engage. And it also gives the panelists something to respond to as well as we go through our questions today. So our first question is, what community do you live in, work with? And what kind of tourism related opportunities are there for high school and college students? So I'm going to give you all just a moment to respond to this question in our chat. So it looks like we have a response for someone that lives in and works in Cedar City. For high school and college, there are frontline tourism opportunities and seasoned public land positions and internships. Absolutely. Thank you, Bridget. We'll give just a couple more moments for other responses to come in too. And it's okay if you don't have any either too. You can totally throw that into the chat. Thank you, Celine. So working for Arizona State Parks, many seasonal park ranger positions throughout the state. Oh, that's great. Yeah, and for those of you too that if you perhaps don't know about opportunities too, please feel free to throw in the locations that we love to see where you all are tuning in from. Thank you, Arlene. So we've got Superior, Arizona with a culinary class, as well as a hospitality class for students in their JTED programs. That's great. Ruby coming in from Cedar City. We've got Colette working with all the communities in the Southern Utah 5-county region and San Juan and Grand County on economic development. Worked in the past with high school and college CTE programs in the region. Great, we're going to talk about that too, Colette. So that's wonderful. Perfect. Thank you all for your insights. Those are great to look into. Thank you. And our next prompt is, what is one thing that you're hoping to get out of today's webinar? What prompted you to tune in, and what kind of insights are you looking for? This will be really great for our panelists too, because they may have things that they weren't planning on sharing, but based on your needs, we'd love to respond to those too. So yeah, if you could take a moment to think about what you're hoping to get out of today's webinar. And thank you, Meredith, tuning in from South Texas. Cool. Yeah, any ideas you might have for what you're hoping to get today in our session? Maybe certain tips, insights, case studies, hoping to get new ideas to share with our local communities that are facing workforce issues in hospitality and tourism. Absolutely. Yeah, just bringing just new thoughts and initiatives and ideas. New ideas on how to reach recent high school graduates or struggling with a career in state parks. Yeah, definitely. Like, when do you reach out to youth and at what point and what does that look like? That's great. Thank you all for putting in some insights, and please feel free to just keep throwing them in the chat too. Yeah, teens are an untapped market in many areas. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're definitely going to talk about how to connect specifically to high schoolers and college students and what that looks like, what programs have been launched in Utah, and what ideas you might want to bring into your own states and what that might look like for your areas. It's also sharing designed to be bridges between educational and careers, always looking for ways to engage youth with seasonal and career building opportunities. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for sharing those desires with us. And I'm really excited to have the panelists address a number of those too. So with that, I'm going to invite our panelists on to join us. So panelists, if you would please turn your cameras on. Hi, welcome. Okay, so before we dive in, I want to give the audience a chance to learn a bit more about our speakers. So panelists, in about 1 to 2 minutes, would you please introduce yourselves, including giving an overview of your experience or your perspective on working with students who are interested in working in the tourism industry. So Cicely, I will have you go first.
Okay, well, thank you so much, first of all, Jordan and Lisa, for inviting me to participate today. My name is Cicely Kind. I'm the program manager for the Utah Tourism Industry Association. We are a statewide nonprofit member-based organization that advocates for Utah's visitor economy. And I was brought on board solely for the purpose, primarily for the purpose, I should say, of building our high school tourism and hospitality course that I'll speak more about as the discussion goes on.
Thank you, Cicely. How about AJ next?
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me. So AJ Templeton, I'm an assistant professor here in the Hotel Resort and Hospitality Management program at Southern Utah University. Got 15 years, over 15 years in the industry, working for a ski tour operator, niche lodging sector, and over 10 years in higher education. And one of the things that I do and with teaching is I'm the club advisor for the hospitality club here for our HRHM. Those are our hospitality students.
Wonderful. Thank you, AJ. And Dan.
Yes, hello. I have been in the tourism industry for 35 years, my whole career, and at very few points was I ever encouraged to look at the tourism industry, and that's why I'm very excited to be part of today's conversation, because I'm really committed to helping the very best and brightest out there to consider the tourism industry, because it has been a very rewarding industry for me personally. And I love seeing bright, motivated people choosing our industry. We don't really get the same support that more, I would say, traditional scholarship industries get. And yet there's a great rewarding industry waiting for very bright, hospitable people out there. My career has been in many different phases of the industry, primarily convention and visitors bureau. So public-private partnerships. I've also been on the hotel side, as well as many years on agency side. So I will be speaking about all of those industry opportunities.
Thank you, Dan. Oh, I'm so excited. This is such a great lineup. Okay, so before we kind of get into specific pathways and programs that are being enacted in Utah, I'd love for us to kind of take some time to explore just how expansive job opportunities are within the tourism industry. So what are some of the more traditional job opportunity routes, and are there new positions that are emerging? Dan, would you like to start us out first?
Absolutely. So I think in Utah, the state parks are very visible. And I think that when many students think about tourism, they immediately think about those big state parks that they've visited. And I know we have people on this call from other state parks in other states. It just happens to be a very visible part of tourism. And many people think, well, if I want to be in tourism, maybe being a park ranger is the way to do that. And that's great. I love any visibility, but there are so many other ways to enter the industry. And certainly growing up, I'd never heard of convention bureaus or of chambers of commerce. And the fact that virtually every city in every state has a chamber of commerce, whether that's within the city or it can be a county chamber of commerce, or every state has a state office of tourism. And these are organizations that just don't come up and don't surface in people's minds. But within all of those organizations are opportunities to market a region. And I love to identify students who are naturally exhibiting pride in place. They have a sense of pride in their home, their region, they're naturally wanting to be a tour guide of their city or their town or their national parks or their state parks. And when you see that kind of enthusiasm, would be great to be able to say to them, have you ever considered that this is actually a job that you're exhibiting already, that you want to be, a welcome guide, or you can even see it on school campuses where the tour guides are on high schools or colleges. Many colleges have tour guide programs for students who are considering their schools, and to remind them that the skills that they are naturally exhibiting when touring people around is actually a full-time career, and that every city and every county and every state is looking for people who naturally have those instincts. And it's interesting how people don't remember that that's a marketing function. People know about how to market products, market toys, market cars, but tourism is also something that needs to be marketed, and people who have marketing skills may be interested in using them toward destination marketing. And convention and visitors bureaus are now really becoming known as DMOs, or destination marketing organizations. It's a shift in the language of our industry. And more recently, DMOs, destination marketing organizations, are now being referred to as destination management organizations, because marketing isn't what it used to be in many very well-known places. They're more concerned with making sure that we're giving good management of the destination. So that means marketing to specific people during need times. It's just become so much more sophisticated how we communicate, the words we use to attract people from different places at different times, so that the destinations are being managed and tourism is being managed. And it's not just come one, come all, anytime you can get here, we're happy to see you. It's become a much more sophisticated function. So for people who are interested in marketing, this is really exciting. And besides convention bureaus and national parks, hotels are really also in the business of marketing. And it's not enough to just say, oh, come stay in our hotel. The real question is, why does someone want to stay at the hotel? Which means the hotel is really in the business of destination marketing as well. And they become really good partners with convention visitors bureaus, and even directly to the state offices of tourism. So there are needs inside every hotel for marketing people. And those hotels have one other big group that helps them to partner in marketing, and those are agencies. That's public relations agencies, advertising agencies, and now we're having high-tech agencies that have things like tourism apps. So the whole point of being part of that is to help the DMOs and or the hotels to get the visitors to be in different parts of the county or the state at different times. They're doing really fun programming these days with check-ins and, just creating strategy with the state office. Where do you want the visitors to be when? And using technology. There are so many ways now for people who are interested and have interest in technology or marketing to align themselves with tourism, as opposed to some of the more traditional ways of expressing themselves. And we have a lot of great examples here in Utah, which we'll talk about later.
Thank you so much, Dan. Yeah, I love this idea of kind of the expansiveness of this industry, right? It's like you can kind of enter into, whether you're a high school student that's working in a hotel, or working, volunteering at a state park, and just thinking about what are all those opportunities within each of those spaces. And I love, Dan, how you talked about if you're into tech, if you're into marketing, if you want to do public relations, there's so many different aspects of those worlds that that youth can get involved in, which is really great. AJ and Cicily, would either of you like to share any thoughts on sort of emerging tourism careers?
I would just add, Dan kind of pointed out how expansive it is, and I would just mimic that for the course that we have created for high schools, we simply could not make it fewer than the 15 lessons that it ended up, because there are so many sectors and so many sides to this industry. And we really tried to and wanted to give high school students a holistic viewpoint of all the things that it could possibly include. You know, Dan kind of mentioned tech is becoming a huge one, and it really is becoming ever more important to keep up to date in tourism and in hospitality on the tech side of things, in addition to the more traditional routes of ground transportation, working for airlines, working for hotels, working for restaurants, or the destination marketing organization. So it's ever so expansive. So I would just say to anyone interested in, or any educators who do speak to and reach to the students who might be interested, just to expand upon just the great depth of opportunities that are available here.
Thank you. Yeah, AJ, would you like to share too?
I was just going to say, one of the things I tell my students in the classroom is, you know, tourism, hospitality, it's a business. And so, you know, if you're going into finance or data analytics or economics, go look for a company in the hospitality tourism field. They need people doing that, right? And you get all of those other perks of either travel benefits and just interfacing and really unique places and going to these really unique places. And, you know, and with that too, are just the entrepreneurial opportunities. And we're starting to see a lot more entrepreneurial opportunities that really fall under our umbrella. And so that's really exciting.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think, you know, in talking about this topic in general, I think it's also important for us to kind of address a little bit of a negative connotation that has been associated with tourism related jobs. You know, thinking of them as being essentially dead end jobs. That's sort of been something we've been hearing over time. And I'm curious for each of you, if you were to encounter someone today that was like, well, those are kind of dead end, how would you respond to that? Dan, would you like to go first?
Absolutely. The best and the brightest that I've been very fortunate to work with over the last 35 years, they've experienced career ladders that in many ways just were a little bit invisible coming out of, you know, traditional education. And if you're inside a hotel, the ability to grow within that hotel and then see the transferability to that same position in virtually any corner of the world, it's so much larger than you realize. Even when many students just start in that entry-level job, they don't realize that there's going to be a worldwide ladder, career ladder for them that it opens up to. You know, I started my career working for foreign government tourist offices. So I have literally seen the world through tourism by being, I was interested in marketing, and I didn't know that there was a tourism sector within these marketing agencies. Then you became an expert in the tourism industry, and then you start to have other agencies asking for your expertise because tourism is very transferable. And I think that I was fortunate that international positions, other countries really recognize how important tourism is as a business. And in the United States, we have so much competition out there for these students in so many other fields. And the tourism industry just doesn't have the same visibility. But I do believe for a lot of students out there, this will be the industry that captures them, that they will find so much fulfillment. I think a lot of people know that they love to travel, but they don't realize that, you know, your vacation is my career. And I think that when, you know, those seeds are planted for these kids, and if they say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't really realize that this job wasn't just in this location, that I'm building skills that will take me elsewhere, it gets exciting for them. And there are some people who really love the idea if they could find a career that allows them to stay in the location that they are. and they don't realize that those towns and counties are needing them, and every state needs them. And if you have that natural sense of marketing and interest, and you have pride in your local area, that having a career starting, in your local location is the perfect place to do it. And I mean, right now, Utah has a very small population relative to how large the tourism industry is. So we are bringing in a lot of people from outside of Utah, me included, to help market this state and market the city, because the local kids aren't recognizing that there's a need for them right where they are. And for some, that's a really reassuring thing. Otherwise, a lot of towns lose their kids to other cities who think that that's where they have to go for careers, instead of realizing you can really start your career in your town. If you love your town, the town needs you, and you'll grow and learn those skills. And then if you want to go to a larger city or a foreign country, that's great. You go there with those skills, but it's immediately transferable. And in foreign countries, tourism is viewed in a much higher prestigious way. And I've been very fortunate to work for those foreign government tourist offices. And that's why I have a strong opinion about the value of tourism, because those other countries is where I trained. And then I came to the United States really to do more of the tourism with local tourism boards, and found that it wasn't getting nearly the appreciation and the value. And I think in foreign countries, they're really encouraging their best and brightest to pursue some of these career paths, and getting a position at the local tourism board is considered a really coveted opportunity. And then you learn about marketing, and you work with your marketing agency, and then you've got your transferable skills.
Cicely or AJ, would you like to respond to that question as well?
I think I'll just really quickly, because honestly, Dan kind of hit it all. I know that even doing a PhD or a master's, people go, oh, there's a degree for that. You can get a degree in that. Oh, are you going to run a hotel? And so I think it just really goes back to explaining to students that there's so much more than just a restaurant or a hotel. And there's so much more to it than just the customer facing positions, because that really isn't for everybody. And we had students up at the Utah Tourism Conference, and they were so excited to interface with people in the tech industry, with the DMOs, with recognizing that event planning is more than just weddings. Oh, there's somebody whose job is dedicated to bringing sports into a county. And so opening their eyes up to that really helps to showcase, like Dan said, how this is a business. This is an impactful industry, and there's so much more to it. And you never know where that can take you, because the possibilities truly are absolutely endless.
Yeah, and I would just add, I mean, AJ and Dan have really covered what it really can mean to be in this industry. I would just add that, yeah, a lot of high school students and, students that are fresh out of college, a lot of their first jobs will be in tourism and hospitality. They'll be the frontline staff of a restaurant or a hotel. And even if they don't see tourism as their long-term goal, it can provide them with really valuable business management, business marketing skills. For me, myself, I've always been on the DMO, or the destination marketing organization side of things. I got my start at the Utah Office of Tourism. So I've always kind of worked for the tourism offices. And, I went to school for tourism, but through my opportunities and through my career path, I have gained experience with graphic design, with international diplomacy, with marketing, all things that I didn't have really as part of my career goal intentionally, or part of my degree, but it's still skills that I gained. And so I would say that this is a very valuable career path in the short term and the long term for students.
Thank you all so much. I think that's so fascinating to think about, Dan, how you were mentioning tourism just being so much more prominent as a kind of a career route and as a business model in different countries, and how it's starting to, gain more traction in the US. And it's almost like you could be kind of on the cutting edge, especially when it comes to technology or just ways that that youth can kind of get plugged in. And I just love the expansiveness of those opportunities, and the fact that you are just building on skills, and trying to figure out like where you fit in all of it. And yeah, maybe you're doing frontline work right in the beginning, and then you start to, make relationships with supervisors and other staff that have been more seasoned. And then you start to move up into more managerial positions, or just even figuring out like what their interests are. It seems like it's, just a kind of a great way to experiment and try to figure out like, do I want to be front facing? Do I want to do more data and analysis? Do I want to do more graphic design? Just like a whole suite of different options to go for, which is great. I would love for us to now kind of segue into a little bit more of specifics of kind of how this plays out, specifically in Utah. And so for each of our panelists, as you kind of explain different programs and ideas, please feel free to share any materials in real time too, or throw things in the chat. So our next question is, what kind of possibilities are out there for high school and college students to work in the tourism industry? And I would love, Cicily, if you would be able to start first on the high school side of things, and sharing about the hospitality and tourism career and technical education program.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned at the start of the call, I'm the program manager who oversees our high school curriculum. And what that is about 3.5 years ago, my organization, UTIA, contracted with the Utah State Board of Education to build and provide and manage a high school career and technical education course specific to the tourism and hospitality industry. And so I was brought on board to manage that. And we've now entered into our 3rd school year. And what the program is, as I mentioned before, it's 15 lessons total that cover an introduction to this industry. It provides students with a wealth of materials like PowerPoints, videos, quizzes, and assignments that give them an introduction to all the different sectors of the industry as it fits in with the Utah Strands and Standards, which is the skills that a high school student is tested on and expected to know upon the completion of our course. So we built it with that in mind, and trying to provide a holistic introduction to the industry. Some fun things that we have provided as an added value that we see have really kind of come to fruition to building those firsthand experience for these students in the industry is we provide for every teacher in every semester who takes our course, we provide 4 guest speakers, which are people we pull from our membership base primarily and our connections in the industry to come in person primarily. But, obviously we started this program 3 years ago. So a lot of these initial conversations were had over Zoom, but thankfully they're now being had in person in the classroom. We're pulling in people from the local tourism community as well as the statewide tourism community to come speak not only on how they got to where they are in the career that they're in, what their day-to-day in their job looks like, but most importantly, perhaps, we ask them to come speak on the internship and career forecasting in their particular field and in their particular organization whenever possible. And so we've seen some really great results from those conversations, internship opportunities, job opportunities, because a lot of our students happen to be juniors and seniors. And so they're looking forward to what they're going to do upon graduation. So we've seen some great results so far of building those careers for those students. Just briefly, I'll say that we also provide an accreditation program through the American Hotel and Lodging Association, which is a nationwide organization covering that side of the industry. It's a 2-hour online course that we provide to our students at no additional cost. So all those students can take this course. If they pass the final test after the 2 hours with 70% or better, they get to earn that accreditation, which is a great kudos that they can add to their LinkedIn profiles and their resumes to just show that future and potential employer that they've taken that extra step to become certified in the tourism industry. It's a customer service-based accreditation, I should add. And we also oversee, my organization oversees the annual Utah Tourism Conference. It just happened in Vernal last week. We move it around the state. And so again, being that, we started this program at the midst and the beginning of the COVID pandemic, we weren't able to invite students initially to the conference, but now we have begun. We built out a mentorship program where these students can come in and personally attend one day of our conference and meet up to 400 individuals that also attend the conference, get those networking opportunities, get to meet all the front faces of all the sides of the industry. We literally have every corner of the Utah tourism industry attending this annual event, and they get those introductions through the breakout sessions that they attend, through the networking breaks that provide those one-on-one meeting opportunities for our students. So those are just some of the opportunities that we've tried to fold into this program to create a great value, because we really want to see this next generation in the tourism industry really flourish, and we want to build them up with the best opportunities possible to, as Dan kind of mentioned, maybe not feel like they have to head to California or Florida to start this career, but how much we really need them here in our corner of the world. So that's some fun opportunities that we're trying to hopefully provide for our students throughout the state.
That's like the coolest thing ever. I love how it's like, 15 different topics, right? Super expansive. They can get accredited. And then they're also able to network and just connect with individuals. I'm curious, Cicily, as you've been running this program for the last 3 years, how have schools been able to get involved or request speakers? Like, how has that process been? Are there any schools or regions that you haven't been able to connect with, or have you had all of them?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. We are growing year over year, I'm excited to say. So we've reached, I think most, I should take a look at a map and see if there's any corner we haven't quite hit, but we have hit most counties in the state. And now it's just a matter of, there's so many high schools in every single county. It's a matter of growing it, within those individual counties. But as far as how others can get involved, for these guest speakers, we work primarily with the local tourism office. So that's the local DMOs, the term that Dan mentioned and that anyone in the industry will hear time and time again, the destination marketing organization, or the local tourism office for a particular county, which is how it's divided up in Utah, is typically by county. We work primarily with them, and we go to them. I have a Google form that the teachers fill out. I send it to them before the semester begins, and I say, as soon as you know the timing of when it makes sense, because they're taking it, they're taking our course and they're teaching it not laterally. Some of them are taking and picking out pieces. So every teacher is going to be different about when they want someone from the hotel world to come in, or the tourism office, et cetera. And so I say, whenever you get your timing set up, fill out this Google form. I get notified. I work immediately and directly with that local tourism office. And I say, great news, your teacher in XYZ high school wants a guest speaker for this and this and this day, and this and this and this topic. And then together we decide, based on their connections in the local industry and our connections with our membership base, and just who we know in the industry as well, who would maybe be the best fit. And so I would just say, I'm always looking for speakers, anyone in the industry. I know we've got some people in the audience that are from state parks. I do want to fold in always the tourism office, the local tourism office, but by all means, I want to create those new connections as well with anyone who would love to come and speak specifically on the career path that got them to where they are, and the job and internship possibilities with their particular organization. So that's how I would love to see more engagement, and I would just love to hear from our audience today.
Yeah, and it looks like Colette had a great question too, asking about, is this program also available to job seekers that are like in technical colleges and or working with Utah Department of Workforce Services? I know the audience is definitely high school. And I'm just kind of curious if there are, just because it does seem like a really expansive insight lens, are there ways that other people outside of high school can kind of get plugged in or get information?
Yeah, and AJ can probably speak better than I can about this side of things, but we have branched out and created a connection with SUU, Southern Utah University, for more of an adult focused education branch. For my particular program, it is exclusive to the high schools, but absolutely we want to continue those conversations about how we can branch the program out for those in continuing ed, adult education, as well as those who, maybe post-COVID are looking for a completely new career path. Definitely want to work with them and see how we can get them involved with the industry as well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And it's such a budding program, right? It's so new. And so it's like being able to strengthen that and then figuring out like, okay, what are the other audiences or groups that could really benefit from all the work that's already been put into this program? And it's really exciting to kind of think about, yeah, what those possibilities are. And real quick too, Cicely, I'm curious if there are any examples of what it's looked like in any of these particular communities as far as students perhaps getting job opportunities or figuring out where they want to go in their career path. Are there any examples of how this program has really taken off in communities?
Yes, absolutely. I have a wonderful example. So we had a business teacher in Grand County High School, which is in Moab, Utah, who taught our course last school year. And we brought in a local GM, a general manager of a local hotel, to come speak on her experience. She was younger, in her early 20s, so not far removed age-wise from the high school student she was speaking to. And she mentioned her career path, and she also mentioned how vitally they need, especially in a town like Moab that's on the precipice of two of our great national parks, that they need those frontline staff for their hotels. So she spoke from her experience at her specific hotel, not only how she was quickly able to, in her short career, get to where she's been and she has and currently is, but also the needs with her organization. So through that conversation, not only with the students, but with that business teacher, they developed an internship program that now directly a lot of his students, even if they're taking the tourism focus class or just one of his more general business classes, it's built an internship opportunity to take those students directly to working and interning at the local hotels there in Moab. So that's been a fun example to see have happen.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it can definitely spark, like different like internship and job opportunities just with working with all those partners and thinking about the possibilities out there. Thank you so much, Cicely. That was really awesome to sort of see more of the high school side of things. I'd love to segue over into getting into a little bit more of higher education. And so AJ, working at Southern Utah University, I'd love to hear about your certification and just the programs that you run for your students.
Yeah, so we have a 4-year degree program here, and we're housed in the School of Business, so we're a AACSB accredited program. So it's Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business is what that stands for. And within our program, we've got a lodging, a food and beverage, and an events track. And then we also partner across campus with the outdoor recreation, parks and tourism program. And so really making sure that the hospitality and the tourism side are covered, and our students end up graduating with a variety of certificates in addition to the degree. And so they come out with a Serve Safe, right? So that's food and beverage certification. They've got at least 3 certifications from the American Hotel and Lodging Association. And so that's the degree program. And then what Cicely was referring to is a program that's coming out of our Office of Professional Development, and it's really geared for the workforce, for that adult learner, and it's a learn and work certificate in parks and tourism, and focus really in the state of Utah. We really base it to the state of Utah, and so that's something that's been available for anyone to take, right? And it's continuing really to grow. So really a lot of great opportunities.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And I kind of thinking about just those different routes that they can take. I'm curious about like internship opportunities and like working with businesses, especially at like a higher ed institution. And I'm curious about like what kinds of experiences are kind of ideal for students. Like, so basically like what can like businesses, organizations, and communities that kind of support these internship opportunities do to kind of ensure that the students have like the best possible experience that encourages them to like continue in the field and like maybe stay in their hometown. I'm just kind of curious of what you've seen with particular businesses that have kind of like elevated that experience for students.
Sure. So I think one of the interesting things is that we use the term internship, and it really can cover a broad variety of things for the college student, right? So they can do internships through the university for credit, or we have your work internships, and that's a term a lot of companies use, where they're not really getting credit, but hopefully it's very structured for them. One of the big things is paid. We have moved way past that part of free labor, so to speak, for experience. And we want to show students that this is serious, and we do value their time as well. And so our students have an 800 work hour requirement, where they have to work in the industry, and they show pay stubs and they do a write-up. And where we show that it's really beneficial for them is where there's structure within that experience, be it an internship or a work study. They really want to be mentored. They want to learn. They want opportunities in different departments within a company, because they're using this to see, maybe I thought events was for me, and then all of a sudden, nope, turns out I really love the marketing piece, or I really love the supervisory piece, or I really like developing things behind the scenes. So being able to really offer them a variety of experiences is really important. And they don't want to just be thrown in housekeeping for the whole summer, it's valuable experience for them, but they don't want to just be treated as, oh, you're just cheap labor, and that's been great. They want to be part of that company culture. They want to be onboarded. And so that has really worked well. And we've seen where students stay with companies that onboard them, that bring them into the company culture, that mentor them, but they're like, you know what, I want to come back and I want to work here. And I want to take this experience and I want to make this a career. This isn't just a seasonal job for me. This is a career. Or they might go, you know what, I can do this in my hometown. And so now maybe they've gone somewhere else for an internship, but they go, hey, I think there's an opportunity in my hometown to get involved and to be involved. And so that's been really important for them. And we're seeing that they want not the traditional, they want to be with DMOs. They want to be with event planning companies. They really want, we have an IIC program here. It's the Intergovernmental Internship Cooperative here at SUU, and that partners with our public lands opportunities because there's crossover, right? There's 100% crossover. We do some small resort cooperative internships. They want to test it out. They want to try it out. They want to build their resume and get paid and see, is this really where I want to go?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, AJ. Yeah, it's so interesting to just sort of think about how, if as a business, if you're bringing in students and youth, it's like, yeah, if you're mentoring them, if you're like introducing them to all the aspects of running the business, and you start to build a community there, right? Mm-hmm. Like that youth is starting to feel like there's a place there for them. They can sort of see their own budding potential. And especially with the mentorship piece, I feel like that's so crucial, especially for businesses that might struggle with retention of employees, and especially for those kinds of seasonal opportunities, like being able to build a rapport with their staff. That way they actually want to come back and then perhaps go into different paths in that business. I'm curious about, so in Utah, what we're kind of seeing with tourism and outdoor recreation sectors is that, it is such a great economic importance for the state and at the local levels. And there is really, this high demand for people to work in this field. So whether it's in customer and guest services or destination management or marketing. AJ, I'm going to start with you a little bit. Can you explain more about like where you're seeing some of these needs in the state, and kind of how students and residents in Utah can kind of capitalize on just sort of this emerging sector?
Sure. So I think there's two places. One is obviously needs in entry-level positions, right? And that is not to be overlooked. I mean, that's where you gain time management skills and the ability to interface with people. And so there's a lot of value in those positions. And but most, I'd say most students don't want to stay there, right? So I think the second place that there's a need with is career positions, and getting people to stay in the industry. And it goes back to that mentorship piece, showing them that there's a track, there's a ladder for them, that there's places that they can go. And Dan alluded to that earlier, and such a well, really verbalized that really well. And with that, it's just, getting involved with UTIA, getting involved with lodging associations, getting involved with DMOs, being involved in the community, because that networking piece is so important.
Thank you, AJ. And yeah, Dan, I'm curious with like how this need can sort of be translated into what you were alluding to earlier, which is like a really rewarding career path for students that, perhaps want to return to their local communities and help sort of preserve the character of that place or that experience. And yeah, I'm just kind of curious about your experiences and what insights you have there.
So once a year, I make a presentation to the high school at Park City High School through their either college counseling or business studies, because I try to open their minds to this career path. And I just watch every session, every year, the light bulbs going off for certain students that are there in business studies and never considered that tourism was a business, that Park City really it's a business, and that they can play a critical role. And there has always been one group of students that the lights really go off for, and that is foreign language speakers. They know that their language skills are valuable, and they have no idea how that's going to be valuable to someone. And when they hear that their own town is doing business every year in Brazil, in China, in Mexico, and we need people who speak Spanish and Portuguese to be our ambassadors, to speak to those communities about why they should visit Park City. And we're dealing with students who grew up in Park City, so they really know why Park City is special. I don't have to train them about that. They think, wow, I actually can almost be an ambassador for my town. And that connection isn't something that they just knew, but it happens in these classes. And I will say that there's a second group of people now. It's a very new group, but the millennial students really love, they're not even millennials, they're younger, Gen Z, I think. They love in the environment, and realizing that all of these destinations are starting to adopt sustainable tourism programming. If they are passionate about the environment and how tourism coexists with environmentalism, this is a problem all across the world. And so they start to light up about, well, maybe I can use my passion for environmentalism to help destinations do tourism in a more sustainable way. That's a very new conversation, and it's great. It's new all over Utah and all over a lot of places, but these are connecting dots for them that they never saw. And I love to find where the students' natural passion is. And then when the session's over, if it's 30 people in the room, if 4 people come up to me and say, wow, I really want to do this, that has been a hugely successful day. And so I love just going directly to those. They just don't know what their career will be, but if it's based on where they genuinely already live, and we can show them how that connects to a future, then they want to jump in right away. Gets them really excited.
I love that so much. And And so it looks like we are getting closer to our time. I would love, as we're wrapping up, I'd love to give each of our panelists an opportunity to share just a little nugget of wisdom or advice that you'd like to share with our audience, perhaps like ways that they can kind of get more involved with youth, or maybe reiterating certain points that you've already shared with us. But I would love to have Cicily, if you would like to go first, just any sort of like nuggets of wisdom or advice you'd like to share with all of us.
Sure. I would love, actually, what Dan just mentioned really kind of inspired the nugget that I would love to throw out. And that is that we, meaning the tourism industry, needs everyone. We need those who are interested and passionate about the environment, who are passionate about technology, about research, about marketing. You know, all of those fields belong and have a place within tourism, and specifically within tourism here in Utah. There are jobs for all of those. For every person in STEM, there's also a career, I would say, in tourism. And so for me personally, I would say that I personally started my career in tourism because it sounded like something fun to do, and that has been proven true every day of my career. And in the meantime, I've been able to build up marketable skills within this industry that I could use elsewhere. I'm a lifer, I'll be here forever. But you know, for anyone who is interested in something that doesn't seem directly correlated with tourism, I would argue that there is a spot for you here, and there's a place where you can start and build upon your passion and build a career and have it start here in tourism.
Thank you, Cicily. How about AJ next?
Sure. You know, I think as I'm thinking through from a business perspective and keeping these kids, right? I think it's always important to remember that they take their cues from us, the industries, or the professionals in the industry. And if you're passionate and you're excited, they're going to match that. I think I saw that at the Utah Tourism Conference. I see that with my students. They're going to match that. And so we have to remember that they're still learning. Don't make assumptions of knowledge. Be open with them. Be clear with them. Praise them. Be appreciative towards them. Just like you want to keep a good employee, even if they don't stay with your business, we want them to stay in the industry. We want them to have a good experience. And so just, you know, as you go forward, just kind of remember that they look up to all of us. And they're watching, even when you don't think they're watching, they're absolutely watching, and they're our future. And from what I'm seeing, I'm really excited because I think our future is really, really bright.
Thank you, AJ. And real quick, Dan, do you have any nuggets of wisdom for us too? More than
I appreciate what AJ just said. The best thing we can do is show ourselves. We are competing for these kids with every industry, and there are going to be kids who identify with us, who see something in us that they say, I want to be like that. And, you know, I think that tourism it's a non-traditional path. So we have to speak louder because we're not getting the support in the traditional ways, but that's great. We show ourselves. You know, I go into the business schools side of things and say, this is a business. These hotels it's a very competitive industry. Our cities are very competitive. Our ski resorts are very competitive. And we need your help. And a lot of kids all of a sudden realize, that's great. If I can identify with a cause, you know, and they go, I want to be like that guy. You know, that guy's interesting. So many of the people that they meet in their career paths haven't seen what we've seen. And showing the satisfaction that we're getting from being part of that mission really lights them up, lights the right people up. So sharing ourselves is the best thing we can do.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you just to all of our speakers for sharing all of your suggestions, advice, and inspiration. This has been a delightful conversation to have. Speakers, I invite you to turn off your videos while we wrap up very quickly. Just turning back to the audience, I just want to take a moment to hear what our participants are taking away from this session. Looks like Colette's already shared some insights, which is great. If you could just throw in what is one thing that you're taking away from this training in the chat, that would be lovely. And again, just make sure that you're sending it out to everyone in the chat, and that would be great. And thank you for such sweet words, Colette. That was really nice. And just be mindful of time. We just want to thank our audience for the participation. We hope you all have gained insights from this webinar and are taking away some concrete ideas for how you can engage with the Utah Office of Tourism and benefit most from their services. I also want to mention too that we'll be sharing more information on sort of how to get involved with college campuses and recruitment, et cetera, in our summary report too. And just as a reminder that this webinar is recorded and it will be available on our website for future use. And we're also hoping to see you all at our upcoming sessions. Our final session in this training series will be on November 8th from 12 to 1 Mountain Time. In this session, we'll focus on how to effectively partner with local and regional governments on issues that impact the tourism industry. It's another important topic that we hope will help with the planning of a resilient and sustainable future for Utah's tourism-based industry and communities. You can learn more about that session and register for the event on our training website. And just also as a reminder, all of our past sessions are also on the website too. And lastly, we just want to share with you all that we want your feedback to help us make sure that future sessions really meet your needs. So you'll see an automatic survey that'll be sent to you once our session concludes. If you could just take a minute or two to complete it, you doing so will help us and other tourism businesses around the state and elsewhere. So thank you. So with that, thank you to our panelists and our audience. We hope to see many of you at our training session on November 8th. Thank you.